Step number 6, we're flying through them. So my advice to you is to focus on the positives. Imagine that the change that you're anticipating is not something positive. It's not an amazing new job opportunity. It's not moving to a country that you've always dreamed of moving to. It's not a promotion. It's not even a new school that you're looking forward to studying in. Imagine that it's something really, really negative. Perhaps you've been sentenced to 10 years in prison for a crime that you didn't commit. That's terrible, right? You probably can't think of a way that it could be a positive change. You have to say goodbye to everything you know, everything you love, and go to prison. It's terrible. But I wonder if you can think of any positives that you could find in that situation. This unwelcome change. Could there be any positives to it? Take a minute to just think about them, pop them in the chat if you can think of any, and I'll show you what I've thought of.
Before the messages come, we had Caroline sharing exactly what you actually mentioned just after that, that she was moved to country to study in a boarding school, and she felt quite worried to start with, but they have buddies at the school, and that works.
Yeah, so I can absolutely see how that would work for you. It's incredible to meet some people, to not feel on your own. We're not designed to be solitary. Even if we are introverted, we still want to know that there are people that we can talk to, people who can support us, people who can advise us. And when we've come through that, it's great to be able to be that person for somebody else. It brings us a lot of satisfaction, and it helps to have been through that experience yourself. That's great. Thank you for sharing.
We got she actually continues, and I think that's a response to your question. So Caroline is suggesting that such person would have a lot of time, so perhaps to study.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. So in fact, that was one of the things that I thought. Time to study. So there have been some incredible studies that have come out from research into prison systems across the world, which have highlighted how many people who go into prison have been affected by being unable to read or having poor numeracy levels, and how positive it can be to use that time in prison for not just rehabilitation, in terms of not reoffending, but in terms of using time for education, for personal growth, and for study. So that's what this first picture here represents. Also learning coping skills for dealing with anger. Perhaps you would be feeling very, very angry if you had been sentenced to 10 years in prison for a crime you didn't commit. I'm sure I would be. But learning coping techniques to deal with and let go of that anger and other anger that we might experience in the rest of our lives can be a really positive thing. Perhaps you'll learn a new skill like cooking. Luckily, Eddie didn't have to go to prison to learn how to cook. But if you did go to prison, at least learning a new skill might be a positive way that you could spend your time, and that you could feel that the change you had gone through wasn't all negative. And if nothing else, you might have time to get really, really, really strong, which can be great. So
that's actually what Frank was suggesting, that there is time to train and do some sports.
There we go. It's sounding like more and more of a positive experience, but hopefully none of us will have to face this particular change. But even the largely positive changes that we do go through can have drawbacks. Starting university, for example, something that many of us will do at some point in our lives, it can mean leaving loved ones and home comforts, friends, family, pets behind. It's important to acknowledge the negatives, Remember, we're not about hiding from anything negative. We're all about facing up to it, experiencing it, putting a name to it, and learning to cope with it. So it's important to acknowledge that there will be hardships in the changes that we face, but that we can turn them into positives. Learning from those negative things can make us stronger, better. We can focus on the positives too. So yes, we're leaving people behind, but we don't lose them from our lives entirely just because we don't see them as often. And we'll have new friends that might be our lifelong companions. The doors that our education will open to us will make up for leaving the school that we loved. The experiences that we have while we're experiencing the change of going to university are ones which we couldn't have had if we'd stayed where we were. So the changes that we go through, we can focus on the positives and really experience what it means to move forward.